Hello, this is Laurie Parma and you're watching The Contemplations. Today I address a very simple question, which is to say, what do people even mean by happiness and well-being? What does the research say? And a couple related questions, which are, is it actually possible to increase well-being? And isn't it a little bit selfish to want to be happier? And finally, why is there so much talk of fostering greater well-being and happiness when the world as a whole is seemingly doing better than ever? One of the main problems we face is that anxiety and depression are being diagnosed in numbers never seen before. In the US only, there's about 50 million people on either antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication. We are effectively witnessing a global epidemic of existential distress. And it goes further than that, because the UN report that about 800,000 people each year commit suicide, which is more than armed combat and environmental disasters combined. How is this even possible? We live in the best time and in the safest condition in human history. Why is the modern man afflicted by this permanent state of anxiety? This might be one of the inevitable byproducts of our brilliant neocortex. We are incredible problem solvers, but once our brain has secured a fate and planned a future for ourselves, it looks for things to worry about naturally, and it leaves us very little peace of mind. Maybe the collective and cultural narratives that we have about who we are no longer serve us, and they've hit their limits. And we need to reframe this in order to find new paradigms to thrive around. Now, what does well-being even mean? Research has about 15 definitions for it, depending on which word you choose. And therefore, the concept is extremely loose. And this, to me, is an absolute opportunity. Because it means that whether you're interested in peace, whether you're interested in contentment, whether it's about satisfaction, whether it is about awakening and bliss or joy, happiness is large enough to encompass all these definitions and all these different ideas about what is well-being. One idea which I find particularly useful in conceptualizing how we relate to happiness is to aim to return to happiness rather than aim to be happy. Because the danger of just aiming to be happy or content is this end of story illusion. It means, what is it? What does it look like? What does it feel like? And how do I know that I'm there? And how do I stay there once I'm there? Whilst we've all, at one point or another, experienced some level of happiness, and we know we can return to it. And therefore, I prefer to conceptualize happiness as a place I get in and out of, rather than a place I aim to go to. Now, can we even be happier? How much of a grip do we have over our happiness? Well, genetically, 50% of our happiness is supposedly predetermined. So you can't touch those 50%. And then there's life circumstances, your health and your age and your education, that sort of thing. And that takes about 10 to 20% over our happiness. Now, the rest of that, which is 30 to 40%, is where your happiness quest comes in. This is the amount that can actually vary according to how you think and how you behave. Now, one interesting question that often pops up when talking about getting happier is, isn't it a little bit selfish to want to be happier? Or isn't it a little bit self-indulgent? And it's a bit sad that happiness has this self-indulgent reputation. So I've looked into the research, and actually people who are happier tend to be more selfless. They invest more in the people around them and they benefit more to their communities. So there's nothing selfish at all about wanting to be happier. Now, practically, what is to be gained out of the looseness of happiness and the worthwhileness of the quest? Well, I think it's worthwhile to explore for yourself, what does it mean to be happy? What are the pillars that make you happiest? And how often do you come across them? How do you manage them? This, in a very simple list format, is a very worthwhile exercise, which I very strongly recommend. So a little recap. Of course, we have quite a big crisis in depression and anxiety in the world, but Happiness is very loosely defined, which leaves us with the freedom to define what it means for ourselves. And no, it isn't that selfish to want to pursue being happier, and yes, it is possible to be happier. That's it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. Please place your comments below about what was most useful, or if you just want to share your model of happiness and what are the pillars that make you happiest, by all means do. I'll see you next week when I'll explore those little consciousness hacking tools which we call habits.